Hey there, I'm Jerry. I'm a musician who has a serious hobby of collecting guitars. Hi, my name's Jerry. I'm a musician and a guitar player. I'm also a guitar collector. I've been collecting guitars since I was a teenager. I got my first guitar when I was about 15 years old, and currently have a collection of about 50 guitars right now. I've been buying and selling for years. It's a fun hobby. I enjoy it. It's great to find old vintage guitars and fix them up and collect them. My first guitar was a Raven Les Paul copy. I saw it in a music store in Burlington, Ontario actually, and I asked for it for Christmas. I was 14, I believe, and my parents bought it for me. I didn't know how to play, but I figured out how to take it apart and ruin it. And after that experiment, I started playing with my friends in high school and picked up early 60s Gibson SG Junior, which was a good guitar for one of my early guitars because it actually played well. Well, my biggest inspiration, I think, I was married and I wasn't playing a lot of guitar in the mid-90s, and then I went to the theater and I saw a movie called Pulp Fiction, and it just blew me away. The surf guitar sound, and it really turned me on to a whole type of music that I really didn't know about. I started buying CDs and going on the internet and listening to bands like Dick Dale and The Ventures, and that really got me into surf music, and I still play that kind of music today. Is pretty much my favorite music to play. And so my guitar collection is basically a lot of guitars that came from that era. Not only Fenders, but a lot of guitars that came out of Japan and Italy and Germany, that were copies of Fender Jaguars and Jazzmasters that were, pretty way out there. This guitar here is a Most Right. the Ventures actually played most rights, and yeah, it's a great little guitar. Get that twang to it. Yeah, surf music came from California, really. It was, a lot of people think of the Beach Boys as being surf music. In their early days, they played a lot of instrumental, and they used to play in these big ballrooms on the California beaches. There used to be ballrooms that the big bands used to play in the 30s and the 40s, and in the 60s. The surfers would all go there at night and listen to the surf bands play, and it was instrumental, but a really good beat, lots of reverb on the guitar, and yeah, surf music was probably the most popular music in the early 60s until the Beatles came around, and then everything changed. I look on eBay, I look in pawn shops, I look on Kijiji. I know a lot of people who are collectors as well, so there's a lot of people with sicknesses just like me who acquire a lot of instruments and just enjoy the hobby of buying and selling and accumulating them. And of course, you can't keep everything, so usually when you find something you want to add to your collection, you usually have to get rid of one or two or maybe more, depending on what you're acquiring. Oh, okay. Well, like I said, this one here is a 1967 Most Right Celebrity. The Ventures actually played Most Right guitars, but they were called the Ventures model, which was a solid body. This is a hollow body, and it's quite a bit rarer than the solid bodies. I picked this one up on Kijiji in Calgary, and it's one of the better finds I've acquired. To play, it's a 1964 Fender Jazzmaster. For surf music, it's probably one of the better guitars to play for surf music. It's got a very fat sound for single coil pickups. It's got a really nice tremolo system on it that's very sensitive and easy. This one here is similar to the Jazzmaster, but with a 3/4 size neck. It's got a little bit of a smaller fret spacing, so people with smaller hands, it makes it a little easier to play for some people, but not all people. This is called a Jaguar. It's from 1964 as well. And, at the time, this was the top model that you could get from Fender. Even more expensive than a Stratocaster or a Telecaster. This was the top of the line guitar back then. A lot of people, don't recognize them as good of a guitar as a Stratocaster, and they're not. But they have their following, and again, it's part of the surf era, This is a 1963 Echo, sort of a copy of a Jazzmaster made in Italy, and the company that made these actually made accordions as well, hence the sparkly accordion finish on it, and the accordion switches, which are pretty cool, and they all work. This is another Echo. It's a little bit earlier. Again, it's got the earlier style accordion switches other than the slides, but again, they're nice playing guitars. Not the pickups are a little weak, so you know, they're not good to play live, but nice to play around, and big fat neck. This one, I'm not sure the brand. It was made in Japan in the 60s, and for somebody that couldn't afford the amplifier was built into the guitar, which is kind of neat. They were pretty popular. There was a couple manufacturers that were doing this kind of thing, but again, it's got that 60s look and vibe. It's pretty neat. This is my 1985 Japanese-made Telecaster. That era of Fender was sort of a transition era. They were, the company was changing hands and going back to private ownership from what they were before. And for the first few years, while the company restructured in America, they had their guitars made in Japan, and they were really good. This is one of my favorites. Good Rolling Stones guitar. Keith Richards to me. Yeah, I've in my travels, I've been to some guitar shows around Canada, a few in the States, but recently I was in Vancouver, and a couple years ago, and went to a guitar show in Vancouver, which was very cool. It was attended very well, and there was a real good interest there. Last year I actually went to Edmonton and went to a guitar show there, and they're kind of building it up, but I decided Calgary should have a guitar show, so I am working with a few people to make that happen. So it looks like June 1st in East Village, we're going to put on a guitar show at the Golden Age Club, and it's about 5,000 square feet. We're going to have vintage instruments, new instruments, some sponsors, hopefully, that'll some music stores locally, and some local talent playing. Should be good. Check out the website for updates, and we'll keep you in the loop.